Hello everyone. In this video, I'll discuss how to use Python to retrieve stock options data. Or more specifically, we'll use the yFinance Python package to retrieve the options data. A couple prerequisites here. You'd need to have high-level knowledge about options. For example, if you know what is a put option versus call option, and also what is an option chain. And then also some high-level Python experience is recommended. More specifically, do you know what a Pandas Dataframe is and how to interact with it? So first, let's talk about the yFinance Python package. So at a high level, it is a package that can retrieve market data from Yahoo Finance. And it has a lot of interesting market data, such as pricing data for stocks, company metadata, news, and options. But for this presentation, we're going to focus solely on the options. So first, you need to install the yFinance Python package. And you can just do that with a pip install. Next, we need to get a yFinance ticker. So the yFinance ticker is the entry point for retrieving pricing and metadata about a stock. So we're going to first import yFinance and then call yf or yfinance.ticker and pass in your ticker symbol. So in this case, I'm getting a ticker for Google stock. And as I said before, the ticker is the entry point for all the pricing and metadata information. So if you take a look at the content of the ticker object using the dir function, you can see that there are a lot of different attributes and functions related to market data. And one good example here is the ticker.info attribute. So with this info attribute, you can see some information about the company itself. But as I said in this video, we're going to focus more about option chain. So now how do we get the call input option chain from yFinance? yFinance makes it very easy for us. We're going to call the ticker.option_chain function. And then from there, we can specify if we want puts or calls. So we want to first look at the put options. So we'll do .optionchain.puts. And you can see here that it returns a Pandas Dataframe with all of the put options. So you can see some interesting information like different strike prices. We get pricing information, we get bid and ask prices, we get the volume, implied volatility, also an indicator if the option is in the money or not. So this is for a put option. We do a similar thing for a call option. For call option, we would just do .calls. And you can see we get a similar Pandas Dataframe. And the powerful thing about yFinance is that it maintains the same schema for puts and calls. So you'll notice that the data frame has similar column names. And one point to emphasize here is that the return type of the option chain is a Pandas data frame. So with this data frame, you can do whatever transformations you want. And later in this presentation, I'll talk about some transformations. But the beneficial thing about yFinance is that it returns the data into a format that most engineers or data engineering teams can work with. Now, one thing I want to take a closer look at here is this contract symbol column. So you can see contract symbol contains several information here. First, it has the ticker information, ticker for Google. And then the second part here is the expiration date. So in this case, we're looking at options that are going to expire on 4/11/2025, or in other words, April 11th of 2025. So you can see here that when we call .optionchain, we're getting the options for the April 11th expiration date. And what's happening here is that yFinance will retrieve all of the options with the latest expiration date. So at the time of recording, the nearest expiration date for Google options is April 11th. But now what if you want to look at other option contracts that maybe expire further into the future or have a longer DTE? Well, we can still do that with yFinance. We can do ticker._download options, and this will download all option information behind the scenes. And then we can call the _expiration attribute. In here you can see dictionary with all the possible expiration dates that we can retrieve data for. So as you can see here, the earliest expiration date is April 11th, and that's why yFinance is pulling this by default. But it also has information about the April 17th expiration. It even has expirations up to 2026 and 2027 at the bottom here. So suppose I want to do some analysis on the options expiring on April 17th. So yFinance also makes it very simple to do this. Let's first set a variable with our expiration date. And then when I call .optionChain, I'll pass in that expiration date variable. So here you can see I'm getting all the puts for Google that have an expiration date of April 17. And you can confirm this by looking at the contract symbol column. You can see here that it now refers to 4/17 or April 17th. So this is for puts, and we can do the same thing for a call option. We're just going to call .optionChain and pass in our expiration date. And you can see the contract symbol refers to April 17th. So now that you have the options data, you can perform whatever analysis you need to do. But just quickly, I want to show a few examples of transformations that we can perform. So as I mentioned before, the return type of the option chain is a Pandas Dataframe, so we can execute transformations using the Pandas Dataframe API. So for example, suppose I want to look at all options that are in the money and have some volume. So here I have some Pandas transformation to do this. In the money is a Boolean value, so I can get it where it's true, and then I'll get it where volume is greater than 0. I'll apply these conditions and return a filtered data frame. And that's what we see here. So now what if you are not very familiar with the Pandas API? Maybe you have some complicated transformations and it'll be very difficult for you to translate that into a Pandas Dataframe API call. So fortunately, there is a workaround. Instead of using Pandas, you can write your query in plain SQL. And this is a bit more of an advanced topic, but I'm just going to put it here as a slight preview. So you can try to leverage DuckDB to run SQL queries on your Pandas Dataframe. So here I've already installed DuckDB, I'm importing it, and then here I have a basic SQL query where I'm saying I want to search where it's in the money and there's a volume greater than 0. And then I'm going to call this execute query helper function, which internally will take the query we provide and run it with DuckDB, and it's going to return a Pandas data frame. And once we execute this query, we're going to get this filtered data frame. Finally, I want to talk about some of the limitations of yFinance. So at a high level, yFinance is pulling exactly the same content from the Yahoo Finance website. So for most applications, this is fine because you have a wide range of metadata to look at. But there are some limitations when it comes to options. The main one here is that yFinance does not provide the Greek values, for example, delta, theta, vega, and so on. And these values are very important for a lot of analysis, so we probably would have to calculate these values ourselves or find an alternative data source. Another limitation is that there can be data delays. So if you are building an application or doing some analysis that requires up-to-the-minute data, then yFinance is not the right tool for you. You would have to look for an alternative data source. So all in all, we can leverage yFinance to get options data with Python, and yFinance will return the options chain to us in a Pandas data frame. yFinance is free to use, but there are limitations. For example, there are no Greek values, and there can be potential data delays.